Welcome back to the Curated Beauty Podcast. Today's episode is a little different and a little bit more introspective and a whole lot of personal, to be honest. I typically talk about things, health, wellness, really directly related to what I do in either of my two businesses, either Beauty Culture, which is an aesthetic medicine business, or Cultured Wellness, which is functional medicine and a side of regenerative. But today we're diving into a topic that's kind of been on my heart lately. I've talked to my business coach about it a little bit. And I really just want to talk about the value of our hard-earned expertise and the fine line between generosity and boundaries, especially because I thought I was a pioneer in the aesthetic space, but man, being in the functional space and now walking into the regenerative medicine space, there is no playbook, you guys. There's no playbook. We are learning as we go. We are depending on literature. We're depending on clinical trials going on, and we're depending on evidence-based medicine, and all the while trying to seek protection from, making sure that we're practicing medicine the correct way. If you've ever felt or found yourself in a position where you're torn between wanting to help and protect what you've worked so hard for, this episode is for you. Let's explore together, because I believe that it's not just about setting boundaries, which is like rule 1, 2, and 3 of foundations in starting a business, and just also living a extraordinarily fulfilling life. But it's also about reframing how we think about value, how we think about effort and energy, and how we really perceive professional relationships. I'm just going to talk a little bit about why this matters. So lately, I've noticed something that feels both uncomfortable and really clarifying to me. As someone who has spent years and, yes, thousands of dollars building my expertise, I've been fielding more and more casual requests for my resources. These come in the form of, passively just asking over Instagram or texting me, or even, coming up to someone at a conference or a dinner. And these have all just been asking for things and resources that I've spent countless hours refining. Things that I know because they're born out of trial and error, or coaching that I've invested in, and very deliberate investment at that. And as much as I value being generous and giving to people with the blessings that I have richly received, what I've learned, these requests can feel a little off. It's not the ask itself. It's the unspoken assumption behind it. And I've really wrestled with what part feels a little off. I think that the assumption that it's because I've figured it out that I should just hand it over to someone. And honestly, that assumption really does sting a little bit. So today I do want to unpack this, not because I'm frustrated, but because I think that there's an opportunity for all of us to really reflect on how we honor effort, both in ourselves and in others. So let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I decided to invest in a high-level coaching program. I talk about the program a lot. And the cost was, let's just say, it made me gulp a little bit. And it's not even the most expensive coaching out there, but I think that I'm respectful of the relativity of what things cost and what you're willing to place value on as an entrepreneur that's starting out, or maybe struggling, or trying to bring on something big and don't know where to get the money for that investment. But I knew that it was the right step for me and my business. It felt very right. And the program didn't just give me information, it gave me a framework. It gave me a way of thinking. It gave me the confidence to move forward with my strategies. It helped me to boss up my boundaries. It helped me to look at my surroundings as an ecosystem. It helped me to negotiate with strategic partnerships. It helped me to start this podcast, for crying out loud. It was transformative, but it was not easy. There were days that I had to move patients off of my plate that were revenue generating so that I could show up. There were moments of doubt. Is this the right thing? You have people in your life that are saying, hey, we got to cut costs. If you want to increase margins, this would be a great thing to cut. It was the constant balancing act of reinvesting in my own growth while running a business, while watching parts of it fall apart, by the way. And the tools that I developed didn't just come out of thin air. They came out of grit. They came out of commitment. They came out of showing up. They came out of the willingness to go back to the beginning and take risks. They came out of me showing up and working on myself before re-looking at my business and retooling my business. And becoming and choosing to be a higher vibrational person in who I am and who I show up for on my team. And when someone asks for those tools without acknowledging that process took a lot of investment, not only of financial dollars, but of my own blood, sweat, and tears, it feels like the value of that journey is being overlooked. And so let's really kind of peel back generosity versus boundaries. Here's the thing. I really do want to be generous. I don't want anyone listening to this podcast to think that by any means I don't like to share information, because that's not it. I want to see my colleagues succeed. I believe that by lifting each other up, as the tide rises, it rises all ships, right? But there's a difference between generosity and just being taken for granted. Generosity is sharing what you can because it feels aligned. Being taken for granted is someone who just expects your expertise without considering any of the work that it took to earn it. And here's what I've had to do some soul searching about. And I really had to ask myself, is this a me problem? Is it about my own boundaries and not wanting to hurt other people's feelings by telling them, no, I don't feel comfortable giving you this information? Maybe. But I think that it's also about how we as professionals approach relationships. It's about taking a moment to ask, am I valuing the person I'm asking for help? Am I acknowledging their journey? Or am I just looking for an easy answer because I need it right now, fast and now? So reframing the ask, I've been thinking about what a better conversation might look like. Instead of asking, can you share this with me? What if we said, hey, I admire what you've built. Would you mind sharing how you developed this? Or what resources helped you create this? Is there a book, coach, or a program that you would recommend? These kinds of questions honor and acknowledge that there was a process that went into this, and it really invites collaboration. They show you that they're not just looking for a shortcut, that they're also willing to put in the work. And I talk a lot about value, so let's talk about the value of this journey. Let me be really, really, really clear. The real value isn't in the tool itself. It's not in, the resource that I'm handing over. It's in the journey of creating it and making sure that it's aligned. When you invest your time, your money, effort into growth, you're not just gaining knowledge, you're gaining confidence, resilience, perspective, clarity. That's why I'm so passionate about encouraging others to do the actual work themselves. Not because I don't want to share, but because I know how transformative that process can be. The resources that I've created and that I use in my business daily are valuable, not just because they are a box to check off or that they exist, but because of what it took to build them. And that value deserves to be respected, not just by others, but by myself as well. And so for those feeling the same way, if you've ever felt this tension between wanting to help and needing to protect what you've built, you're not alone. And it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to say, I've worked really hard for this and I'm proud of it. And this is not a free thing. Boundaries aren't about withholding, they're about honoring your effort, your expertise, the value that you bring to the table, and quite honestly, maybe monetizing that. because you're then giving someone else the opportunity to also value what you've put into something. So for those asking for help, my colleagues or extensions of that, I offer this gentle reminder. Before you ask, just pause. Think about the person that you're asking. Consider what it took for them to get where they are. And instead of reaching for the result, ask about their journey. Not only will it lead to a more meaningful conversation and potentially relationship, it'll also really empower you to create your own path. So I guess what's the takeaway from this? Generosity and boundaries aren't opposites, they're partners. And when we set boundaries, we create space for intentional, authentic generosity. We honor effort, and that makes us elevate not just ourselves, but the entire community around us. To anyone listening, whether you're the one being asked or you're the one doing the asking, I think let's commit to this. Let's honor the journey. Let's value the effort, and let's build relationships that are rooted in respect and curiosity and collaboration. I think that what it could be a good takeaway, well, let's put this into practice. Here are 5 key questions to ask yourself before making a request for someone's time or resource or expertise. Number 1, have you considered the effort and investment it took for this person to gain their expertise? Just pause and think about it. Did they spend time and money and energy to do this? They're networking to figure the answer out for themselves. Respecting their journey really starts with letting them know that you recognize it. Number 2, and am I willing to do the work myself if they share their process? Resources are helpful, but shortcuts often rob us of the growth that comes from doing the work. I think it's important to ask, are you ready to invest in your own journey? Number 3, have I phrased my ask in a way that shows gratitude and curiosity? So instead of simply asking for resources, try asking about their journey or what tools they'd recommend to get started. Number 4, how can I reciprocate or add value to this relationship? Collaboration is a two-way street, so think about how you can give back, whether it's sharing your own expertise, offering support, or simply expressing genuine application or appreciation. And number 5, would I feel comfortable if someone asked me for this in the same way? Empathy is super key in our whole entire industry, but in the world. So consider how you would feel if the roles were reversed. Would you feel honored, or would you feel taken for granted? These questions aren't just about being more thoughtful, they're about cultivating deeper, more meaningful professional relationships. So thanks for listening and being part of this space where we can have honest conversations about growth, leadership, and the courage to lead with integrity. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So send me a message or join in the conversation on Instagram. Until next time, stay curious and keep creating.